evening and welcome to 90 Minutes. It is Monday the 16th of November. I'm Simon Alamandy and as ever I'm joined by my trusty co-host Pete Hill. Good evening Pete, how are you?
Yeah, good evening Simon, good evening everybody. 16th of November, it'll soon be Christmas, you know, but hopefully we'll be our lockdown as well. What's this? Lockdown 2, week 2. I'm climbing the walls waiting for a game to commentate on, you know. I'm even talking to myself, commentating on games, watching the TV. It's not good. It's not good.
Well, I mean, like you said, Pete, you know, about the commentary last week, I think it might be better you commentating on it than some of those.
Well, certainly give it a go. Anyway, we've got another lot of stuff lined up for you tonight. We've got Dave Coates, the assistant chairman or vice chairman rather, from Wellington City coming up in the second half of the show. Always a pleasure to talk to Dave. And it'd be really good to get that insight on, you know, we concentrate a lot on the pitch, then we on managers, players, what goes on off the pitch. But Dave's going to give us the insight on what's been happening throughout all this COVID stuff off the pitch, which is, you know, so important, keeping the clubs running. Yeah,
I think that's going to be a really good chat, and you know, looking forward to hearing from Dave. Like you say, you know, give that insight, and it gives that different aspect on it. Like you say, apart from, you know, managers and the players as well. So that's going to be really interesting. One other thing as well that we have got coming up. I spoke to a young girl called Imogen Papworth-Heidel during the week, so we've got a little chat with her coming up later as well, Pete. But should we crack on and see what's been happening during the week? And first of all, I think we're going to focus on, you know, we're going to start focusing on our local teams, and we're going to concentrate on Hertford, aren't we?
Yeah, we thought we'd do a kind of lockdown report, if you like, and look at our 3 Step 4 teams over the next 3 weeks. So we thought we'd start in alphabetical order with Hertford Town. Hertford currently 9th in the Isthmian League Division 1 South Central, 12 points from their 7 games and a clean goal difference of 0. And I did a little bit of contrasting with last season. I mean, this stage last season played 7 points 3, 4-8 against 27. They finished 16th, 22 points from 29 games with a goal difference of minus 42 last season. So already you can see where the improvement's taken place. I mean, that goal difference of 0.
Yeah, definitely, Pete. I mean, you take that into consideration. Like you say, you know, last season, they conceded 27. This season they conceded 10. And they've won 4 games out of their 7 league games this year. And last season, it took them 14 games to win 4 games, which was up until Boxing Day.
Yeah, I can remember being there on Boxing Day. I think it was a game against FC Romania, wasn't it? That gave the 12 points. I mean, when you work out, I've done a little bit of, you know, we don't know how this season's going to pan out, do we? We really keep our fingers crossed that it's going to be a 38-game season. If it isn't a 38-game season, there's going to be big pressure to go for points per game, I think, and not abandon another season. And if you look at points per game last season for Hertford, 0.75, you look at this season, 1.71. So last time that Isthmian League Division 1 South Central, I think I'm outdoing Steve King here, aren't I? But I'll carry on. Last time Isthmian League Division 1 South Central was played over a 38-game season, 65 points, which Hertford have predicted to get at the moment with their points per game, would have got them in 6th place in the table.
Wow, there you go. I mean, that's fantastic. And, you know, let's hope that can continue. But you look at that, you know, points per game average, that's almost a point per game more this season, which is absolutely fantastic. We know how much they've improved. The fans know how much they've improved. And you know, that's fantastic for them, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we just have a look at the squad. I mean, the way the squad's changed, you know, notable players that left at last season for various reasons. Nick Hayes, of course, went on into the AFL with Salford City. Alfie Q went to East Thurrock. It's not figured that much this season, made 4 appearances so far. Toby Byron's probably been the one that's been best, having moved on. He's gone up a level at Hendon, 9 appearances, 2 goals so far. Max Jessop's gone to Coney Heath, dropped down a level to Step 5, 13 appearances this season. And Sam Oyenorin's turned up at Biggleswade after a brief stop at Barton Rovers. So there's, you know, at the end of the season, you got 5 players there who really nailed on in the first team, so they had to be replaced.
Yeah, they did. I mean, like you say, Nick Hayes, he went after Salford. But, Luke Mewitt's come in, and he looks just as strong as Nick. I think even, if not better, Pete.
Yeah, I thought Nick was a big guy till I saw Luke Mewitt, and he's an imposing goalkeeper, isn't he? I mean, he was at Huddersfield. He's a local lad, Hertford boy. He was a loan at Hyde United in the Southern League Premier, so he's played a level above at non-league football, and looks a very good signing. And I think one of the other reasons, I mean, in that back four, I mean, said they lost Max Jessup, who was, played a lot of games at centre-half last season, but you've had the kind of the rise of Chris Gosling, as I'll say. It sounds like a film, that, doesn't it? The rise of Chris Gosling. But I think he's been absolutely excellent this season. He's had the captain's armband, and that central defensive partnership now he's got with Harvey Gardner. He's, I think, one of the major reasons why they've been so much better defensively.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I remember last season, Harvey, if, everyone remembers, right, he got injured. And I do remember, going down to the park, seeing Harvey in the stands and him watching Chris there. And he was saying how much he was looking forward to getting a partnership working with him. So, that's fantastic. Chris, I know last season Chris only made a couple of appearances for Hertford. Harvey made 10 appearances for them, but I mean they look absolutely solid together. And you think compared with you've got Ben on the right and Josh, who we spoke to the other week on the left as well. That back four looks absolutely solid, Pete. I think that's a fantastic back four that they've got.
Yeah, I think it's done very well to mould it together. And, we talked to Toby Byron, good luck to him. He's done very well at Hendon, but, young Josh has come in, taken his chance at left back and look very, very solid. I mean, the other additions, Brandy McAwendy in midfield, he doesn't start every game, but he's really created a real fight for places in that central midfield because, you had Isaac Pedro in there, but Isaac is not starting every game now because Brandy's come in and there's just a little bit of pressure there to, which is a good thing.
That's it. I mean, that's what Ben wants, surely. He wants competition for places. I mean, you think, they've got such a strong bench, compared to last season. Players last season that were regular, if you think of your Kit Browns and your Luke Diamonds, Ben Waymans, they're not guaranteed to start now. It's Jagdev that's come in. He made a couple of appearances last season. He's featuring regularly this season now. It's the strength that they've got in depth is absolutely it's chalk and cheese compared to last season, Pete, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing they were looking for at the beginning of the season, we knew, is a centre forward with a little bit of physical presence about him who can put the ball in the back of the net. In walks Sam Fanian, 5 goals already this season, former Reading youngster, and he seems to have fitted the bill nicely.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he settled in nicely. 5 goals, 8 games, 4 league goals, and fantastic addition to the squad. And it doesn't look like they're missing Alfie Q.
No, and, you'd think, again, good luck to Alfie, very talented player. Terence Sadie's come in, former Reading youngster, made his debut in the under game against the young Watford side, so not really too much of a chance to cast an eye on him there. He's a former Reading youngster, though. He obviously knows Sam Fanian. He's there with that link, so he could be, a bright addition to the squad. But, I mean, you mentioned one of them. I've got 2 breakthrough players this season. How good have Josué Jagdev and David Ogbonna been as 2 really, they were bit part players last season, but now, I mean, they're first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think of them, on opposite wings to each other, and they have been fantastic. And they've got so much pace as well, Pete, haven't they?
Yeah, I think you've got pace on both sides and trickery. And I think, it's about assists, it's about scoring goals, which both of them do. But, I mean, Jagdev's been pulled down in the area twice already this season for penalties, which Sam Fanian has dispatched just because of those quick feet.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been fantastic. He's not the tallest of lads, but that doesn't matter. You know, the trickery that he's got in his feet and the speed that he moves in is fantastic. And like you say, you know, that's resulted in him being brought down for a couple of penalties. And I think, you know, he'll win a few more penalties this season.
Yeah, most definitely. And, another mention for the Hertford public as well, who've really come out to support their team because, you had a young team, as we alluded to right at the beginning of this sequence, who had a goal difference of -42 last season. You might have thought, well, oh, no, we're not going to go and watch them. But Hertford's average gate this season, 223. Last season, 169. This is for league games. And that's a 32% increase. So, public really getting behind their team, which is great to see.
Yeah, Pete. Well, I mean, we know, and we mention it all the time, don't we? How much they get behind that Hertford squad, and those fans are fantastic. They really are. They'll get behind them. They'll get down the stable end. They're singing, they're chanting. They'll support the players. And like we said, when we spoke to Josh, and we've mentioned it when we spoke to Kit and to Ben as well. The thanks that those players give to the fans afterwards, I think that helps massively as well.
Yeah, and I think it's almost unique, I think, in any standard of football, which I think is great. And just to round off the sequence, the other thing I'd like to congratulate is the pitch, because like the team have gone from strength to strength, I don't think I've ever seen the pitch there looking as good as it is at the moment.
No, I mean, that looks fantastic. I remember at the start of the season, speaking to Colin Hay, he told me how much work they'd done on the pitch, and it absolutely looks brilliant. There's been a couple of games this season that last year would have probably been called off, but the work they've done on it has meant those games haven't been called off, and they even got the robot in, didn't they, to mark the pitch out.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it aids the quality of the football that's being played there as well, because we saw them last season. They shone on the 3Gs, didn't they, and struggled sometimes at home just because of the surface. Well, no struggling now because the park looks very green and lush. So we'll keep our eyes on the Hertford. The project continues. We are fully behind it, and it's really nice to see. Full of young footballers. I still love one of my quotes. I think it's one of my quotes of the season, isn't it? Graham Stack saying to me, "They look so young, they can't be the first team." And the look on his face when I said, "Well, actually, Graham, they are." So average age of 19. Shove Ben in there, it goes up. What, I don't know, 9 months, something like that.
That's it. Yeah, I'm sure Ben won't like you reminding him of that. But speaking of young footballers, Pete. I spoke with a young girl, like I said, earlier, Imogen Papworth-Heidel, during the week. At the beginning of lockdown, or lockdown 1, I should say, she started a Keep It Uppy challenge. I spoke to her before, and it was doing a Keep It Uppy for every single key worker in the country, which her mum worked out to be 7.1 million people. So she was doing a challenge to do 7.1 million Keep It Uppies. And I spoke to her and her dad, Carl, and you can hear that interview right now. Right, Imogen, Carl, thank you for speaking to me. Absolute pleasure to have you on here. But first of all, Imogen, I've got to say, massive congratulations. You've completed your 7.1 million Keep It Uppy challenge, haven't you? And it's amazing effort from you. So can you just briefly tell everyone, how it came about?
At the beginning of lockdown, I saw Captain Tom on the news walking around his garden, raising so much money and being so amazing for the NHS. And I just wanted to do something to help as well. So I decided to do one Keep It Up for every single key worker in the whole of the country. I didn't quite realise it was going to be 7.1 million. But with a bit of help with Mum, we found out there was 7.1 million. It was a bit of a shock, but then I thought I could do it if we had Keep It Up donations. And we have, and it's just been absolutely amazing. And we've raised so much money for all the charities, and I really hope people can carry on donating.
I know, Carl, you worked out how long it would take Imogen on her own, didn't you? So that's why you decided to get donations and stuff. And the amount of people that helped you out was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've had more than 2,000 people help us throughout the last 6.5 months it's taken us to complete the challenge. And because if Imogen had been doing it on her own, we worked out originally it was going to take us 97 years. I'd have been long gone, so would you, and probably most of your listeners as well. You'd have been older than Captain Tom. So we decided we had to try to do something. So Imogen came up with the idea that perhaps, that people could donate money to the Just Giving page for the 9 super charities we've been supporting, and potentially donate Keepy Uppies to her. So Keepy Uppies to her towards the challenge, and then money towards the Just Giving page. And that was a really phenomenal success. We had 6 million or 5.9 million Keepy Uppie donations, and Imogen herself did 1.1 million Keepy Uppies. So it was. We needed the help, but we couldn't have done it without you and the supporters and all the people that took part.
Yeah, I mean, Imogen, it took you just over 6 months. Did you expect to get it done that quickly at all?
No, not at all, because we worked out it was going to take 97 years to complete the whole of the challenge. And that is if I did 200 Keepy Uppies a day and did it on my own. But no, we've had so much support, and it's just been absolutely amazing. And in 7 months, so it's just like that's a lot less time than 97 years, and it's just really amazing that we've gotten it in under 97 years, and we've done it in 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, you say that. I know when you first started, your Keepy Uppies of the skill has really come on. Have you got a record that you've got, the amount of Keepy Uppies you can do at once?
Yes, my record is 824, and my dad's record is 10.
I think 10's a bit better than my record, I think. I mean, Carl, I know you and your wife, you were the official counters and videographers. I mean, that must have been tough keeping hold of them tallies every night.
Well, the thing for us is that people were going out, sparing their own time and money as well, but their time doing Keepy Uppies and sending them to us. And the very least we could do was count them and make sure that we thanked them. I mean, Imogen did always the thanking. She ran the social media account herself. But she went to bed, and then Sarah and I got the Excel spreadsheet out and tallied them up. And it's fine if there was like 10 people providing X number of Keepy Uppies. That's fine. But when there was about 50 or 60 per night, both of us had full-time jobs. So it was a bit of a kind of a factory process going on. One person even put us together an app so that we could actually try to keep control of what was going on. Yeah, no, I know. It was very kind of him. But Excel spreadsheets as long as your arm at the end of the day. 195 days we did that for.
Yeah. I mean, Imogen, you've raised nearly £14,500 for those 9 key worker charities. Your initial aim was just £1,300, wasn't it? Then you aimed for 7,100, and you've absolutely smashed that, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, raising 14,500 is like 10 times, no, not 10 times, but like a lot of times more than the original target. I mean, like, we wanted to raise 1,300, but we've literally smashed that target. So we raised 7,100, we've doubled that. That is just really amazing.
Yeah, and you've been all over the news as well, haven't you? You've been on Sky Sports News, BBC, ITV, everywhere. And you had a video call from Lucy Bronze, didn't you? She donated 500 Keepy Uppies, I think it was. How amazing, because she's your favourite player, isn't she? So how amazing was that for you?
That was just so amazing. Like, when I got that surprise call from her, I literally nearly fell off my chair. And it was just like really, really incredible. And then also being on like ITV and everything, it's been like, oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, and I mean, you went to St George's Park, didn't you? You did Keepy Uppies with Georgia Stanaway and Izzy Christensen. They donated some, and some of the men's England's team, they donated Keepy Uppies to you as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they donated like loads of Keepy Uppies, and just meeting the lionesses. And that has always been my dream, and having that dream come true is just really, really amazing.
And you had some really super Keepy Uppies, didn't you? Come through from Marcus Rashford and some of the other male players as well.
Really cool.
Yeah, which was just so nice of them. these people don't know her from Adam, but yet they've gone out and spared their time for her. And that was when you were given the Lionhearts to become a squad member, which was, she was so, it was awesome, actually.
Yeah, I wanted to come on to that Lionhearts squad, Carl. Can you tell everyone what that is?
Yeah, so basically there are 23 people across the country who the FA have chosen, who've been sort of, I suppose for want of a better word, lockdown legends, who've tried to do something above and beyond during lockdown. And so they've got 23 members of the squad. The captain is Sir Captain Tom, quite rightly, and he was given his shirt and his award by David Beckham. And then there's been another number of people who've either raised money or done something special, and the FA wanted to do their bit to recognise those people, and Imogen was very lucky and was chosen to be one of the team. And so she's got a super signed shirt, which is going to be put up in her bedroom, I think, probably forevermore.
Excellent. I don't blame you, Imogen. I mean, Carl, you mentioned Sir Captain Tom Moore there, and Imogen, you did as well, and you said he was presented with his Lionhearts shirt by David Beckham. He got a Pride of Britain award. Imogen, you presented him that, didn't you?
Yeah, I met the man who inspired me to do the 7.1 million Keep It Up challenge, and that was just really incredible. He's such an amazing person. He raised like £37 million, and that is just so much. And I think everyone in the whole world is just so grateful for what he did. And just meeting him was just so incredible.
Yeah, you were really good to meet him, weren't you?
I think the thing for me was, the fact that he's the one that inspired you to do this, and you got to present that Pride of Britain award. That when I saw that, I thought that was absolutely amazing. It really touched me.
Yeah, it was just really incredible. I mean, he really deserves his Pride of Britain award for everything he's done. He raised, as I said, loads of money, and he's just such a nice person.
You had a little chat with him as well, didn't you? What were you talking about?
So I told him about my challenge, and he said it was quite cool, and that's quite a cool thing.
So, I mean, now Keep Your Happy Challenge finished for you, Imogen. I guess you've got a bit of spare time on your hands.
Yes, I'm probably going to have a little break at the moment.
I don't blame you. I mean, saying about a break, obviously there's no football at the moment, and you play for Cambridge United, don't you?
Yes, I do play for Cambridge United.
So I guess you're looking forward to this lockdown finishing and getting back to playing and seeing your teammates all over again.
Yeah, that'll be really cool just to meet them, because I mean, Cambridge United have been so supportive of the challenge, and just playing with Cambridge United is really, I've been playing for years now, and I've enjoyed every single minute of being there. Excellent.
Well, thank you very much for joining me both and having this chat, and Imogen, I wish you all the best for the future.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon.
Right, many thanks to Imogen and Carl for that. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, like we said, she's raised over £14,500 for those charities. Inspired by Sir Captain Tom Moore, and presenting him with that Pride of Britain trophy. All those keepy uppies from all those famous footballers, Pete. I mean, like we said during that interview, Lucy Bronze, Georgia Stanaway, Izzy Christensen. You got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Marcus Rashford. There was Declan Rice. The list went on and on and on. I think what she done was absolutely fantastic. And also getting into that Lionhearts team, I mean, she deserves everything she gets, doesn't she?
Oh, absolutely. More power to you, Imogen. Absolute super stuff. I mean, I think in my brief footballing career, I probably could have managed 4 or 5. So, nowhere near that's level.
That's it. I mean, let's go on to some women's news. Okay, and Hearts United, ladies, they've announced a new manager, which is Jess Harding, and I spoke to him for Heartham United TV. So we'll be bringing that interview next week for you. They've kindly allowed us to use that. But let's go on to the Golden Boot for the ladies. And Pete, it's not the expected leader that we have. Becky Lewis is top of the women's Golden Boot for Buntingford Town ladies. She's got 6 goals. Nikki Janksey of Hearts Vipers and Taz Simons of Vipers Development are next on 5. And Donna Watts from Watson ladies is on 4. So we'll have a look at the tables. And in the Eastern Region Women's Football League, Millwall Lionesses, they're top. They've played 7 points with a +4 goal difference. Hutton Women's second, played 7 points. They're +2. AFC Sudbury Women are third after 3 games. They've got 6 points. Watson Ladies are fourth, also third, and also played 3, and they've got 6 points. And East Burgolt United are 7th and bottom with 2 points from 5 games. In the Beds and Hearts Women's Football League Premier Division, Hearts Vipers are top. They've got a 100% record from 3 games. They've got a goal difference of +5. And Oakland Wolves are second with 7 points from 3 games. Garston Ladies are third. They've got 7 points from 4 games. And Heartham United Ladies are bottom. They've got no points after 3 games. Division 1, Wootton Blue Cross, they're top. They played 4 and got 9 points. Houghton Athletic Ladies are second, played 7 points with a +8 goal difference. And Biggleswade United Ladies are third, also played 4 and 7 points with a +3 goal difference. And Sherardswood Ladies, they're bottom with 1 point from 3 games. Division 2, Garston Ladies, they're top. 100% record from 4 games. They've got a 13 goal difference. And Hearts Vipers Development are second with 6 points from 3 games. Watton Ladies, they're fourth. They've also got 6 points, but that's from 4 games. And Stockfold Junior Town Ladies, they are bottom with no points, but they've only played 2 games. Moving down to Division 3, it's Oakland Wolves Reserves. They're top with 12 points from 4 games. Flitwick Eagles are second with 10 points from 4 games. Buntingford Town Ladies are third. They've played 4 and got 6 points. Bury Rangers Women, new team in the league. They are in 7th. They've got 3 points from 4 games. And Bedwell Rangers Ladies are bottom with no points from 4 games.
So hopefully the ladies will be back out there sometime in December, and we can keep tabs on all our teams doing well there. Well, going to talk a little bit, open it up with some football chat. And as regular listeners will know, we've been following the football and dementia story fairly closely throughout the time that we've been doing 90 Minutes. And sadly, a couple of weeks ago, of course, it hit the headlines again because Bobby Charlton became the latest prominent footballer to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's, having already seen the sad loss of Nobby stars Jack Charlton, Martin Peters and Ray Wilson from the starting 11 of the 66 World Cup final, having all also succumbed to dementia. Now, in October, there was something I wanted to mention because this was really interesting and one that I think escaped most of the mainstream news. And it was an inquest that ruled that former Everton and the Hull City player Alan Jarvis, who won 3 caps for Wales during the 60s and 70s, had died from dementia caused by his occupation. Coroner John Getting said, "I'm not saying playing football always causes dementia, but on the balance of probabilities in Mr. Jarvis's case, his previous football dementia is caused by heading balls. Occupational history has been a factor in his neurodegenerative functioning and has led to Alzheimer's disease. It is a result of his occupation." So actually, Alan Jarvis becomes only the 2nd professional footballer after Jeff Astle to have his dementia classified as an industrial disease. So we await developments on that because obviously in terms of other industrial diseases, asbestosis or whatever, you can have a claim against the employer. So it would be interesting to see where that one goes.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that gives some foundation to the basis of the inquiry. But we know, Pete, since covering this, like you say, it is a long process, but we just need to give it a nudge and get someone with it, because apart from that, it doesn't seem to have moved anywhere since we've really started this, does it?
No, it's very sad. I mean, there have been things. I mean, recently, 30 former professionals have signed up to a study into the early signs of dementia. This is being led by Dr. Michael Gray at the University of East Anglia, not too far away from us, of course. But it's conducted online quarterly. Kind of players taking part. Mark Bright, former Crystal Palace striker, Wales forward Ewan Roberts have all signed up to take part. There have been tentative discussions with the PFA and the Football Association, but there's no funding or direct cooperation at the moment, which is really sad. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I mean, a lot of people say, it's because in the 60s and 70s, those balls were really heavy. They absorb water, they had laces, etc. Well, there's some recent studies which are quite frightening, because the University of Leeds study has revealed that it's actually the speed of a football that has more effect on damage it causes than its weight or the material it's made from, suggesting that modern footballers could be at an even greater risk than those who played with old leather balls, because they can strike the ball at a greater velocity. So that's a fairly scary study.
Yeah, I mean, I know Nobby Stiles' son, John. He spoke to Alan Shearer, and, John said he was utterly convinced heading of football was responsible for his father's dementia. But Alan Shearer's also voiced his concerns, hasn't he, about this? And, he's worried it, could possibly happen to himself. But from what you were saying there, it sounds like his concerns could well be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Sutton, the other prominent footballer, because his father is living with dementia, who was a former pro as well. I mean, and it's also, this one probably went under the radar a little bit. Gareth Southgate was quoted as saying just about 10 days ago, do I have concerns? Of course I do. I've had people in my own family who've suffered with dementia, and it's a terrible, terrible illness. Whereas Frank Lampard have said, we have to look at the young game with younger players maybe, and this has to be passed across to the scientists and the medical sides and people who look deeply into this and are experienced in it, to see when you have young developing players how much heading they should be doing and if it should be restricted. So, you've got some fairly prominent football names here that are saying things. But as you say, it's frustrating. As you know, I know Dawn Astle from the Jeff Astle Foundation. I know Dawn's constantly frustrated by the lack of movement. But I do just wonder if the two things, the Leeds study, which I think is going to throw out the window this myth it was all down to heavy footballs, and the Alan Jarvis judgment, which has said this is an industrial disease, might actually get things moving a little bit. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, something you touched on there, a second ago was, about youngsters, heading the ball as well. And I know obviously the FA, they set out guidelines of, ages where these young players shouldn't be heading the ball, and then, going up in age groups, they should practice, 5 minutes or whatever at a time during training sessions. But one thing I did see, Pete, we know it's been mentioned before with the Premier League looking at bringing in concussion substitutes. Now, obviously, this is going to help as well. And it was thought that they was going to start a trial this coming January, but it looks like they're going to put that off and not bring it in until next season. I mean, why can't they bring it in January?
I don't know what they're waiting for, because when you consider in the US, the NFL's agreed a £700 million settlement for retired players with serious medical conditions linked to head trauma. So, you've got a pretty good precedent there in the NFL that they have taken it seriously, and they've even come up with the money because, the other thing, I was really sad with the Nobby Stiles story. Nobby Stiles had to sell his medals, for God's sake. Because, we should be looking after these guys. They shouldn't be, shouldn't be having to sell their medals to get their care. And I think this is one way that, the PFA have let them down big time. And I know this is something that the Jeff Astle Foundation does a brilliant job with, but, they've got limited resources. They're a very small charity. They can't help everybody. And when you get, real prominent footballers, Bobby Charlton now, these guys are going to need help. And when it kind of cascades down the levels, think of how many non-league footballers that sadly may now be living with dementia as a result of playing non-league football that won't even register on the radar here.
Yeah, I mean, they won't get recognised. Like you say, you got that England team. I saw something during the week, which was from, if I remember rightly, it was from the Burnley 1960 Division 1, or what was Division, what was the Premier League, Division 1, as, the older people would know it. More than half of their title winning team suffered or have suffered with dementia as well. And the thing is, I mean, with that initial inquest, Pete, that came in, but with the research from the FA and the PFA, that was dropped because of what was said technical flaws. I mean, what sort of technical flaws would they find to drop that study into it?
Yeah, I think, one of the original studies they set up was with young footballers, which is very laudable, but they didn't take into account that it's a very high wastage rate in football. So maybe 2-3% went on into the professional game. So the study was fundamentally flawed because a lot of the guys they were studying just gave up football or disappeared from the game. So, you didn't have a big enough group to actually base anything on. So, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating, but all, in our small way. And, more power to the Alan Shearers, the Chris Suttons and all these people that are pushing this agenda because, fair play to Marcus Rashford, what he's done for free school meals and stuff. Brilliant. Thumbs up to him. But, let's take as much notice of Alan Shearer and Chris Sutton and all the others as well. And let's get something resolved on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. We do really need to get this studying pushed further, get more inquiries sorted, and get some sort of absolute result for it. It's no good saying, there's these technical flaws and stopping the inquest and stopping the studying into it. We really need to look further into it, and I'm sure Dawn at the Astle Foundation will continue to press for it.
Oh, yeah, you better believe it. She is a very determined lady, is Dawn. There's no doubt about that. So, we'll keep our eye on that story and see any developments. And while we're on kind of sad news, just sad the loss of Ray Clements over the weekend, former Tottenham, Liverpool, England goalkeeper who was a fairly local resident as well, lived in Broxbourne. For a long time, and also someone I came into contact with pretty regularly in the 90s when, of course, he was manager of Barnet when I was covering Barnet for Children Radio. And I guess my Ray Clements story is the day he was appointed as Barnet manager was after Barnet had drawn at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in the third round of the FA Cup. And making my way down from the press box, I got brushed aside by a very grumpy-looking gent who almost barged me into the wall, who I recognised as Ken Bates afterwards, who's the former Chelsea chairman. And Ken wasn't happy at all, had a face like thunder. And the reason he had a face like thunder is Barnet had taken over the directors' lounge at Stamford Bridge to announce that Ray Clements was their next manager. So Ken wasn't happy and Ray took over.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. Ray, such an, I mean, I know the words used lightly, but I mean, you look at him, a Liverpool legend. He left Liverpool, he came to Tottenham. Myself being a Tottenham fan, he's the first Tottenham goalkeeper I remember, and he was absolutely fantastic. He really was. What a player, and I'm sure he'll be very sorely missed, and condolences to the whole Clements family.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a good eye for a player as well. Dougie Freeman, Linvoy Brimus and Mike Taylor, who all signed for Barnet, who were going absolutely nowhere, and they all ended up playing Premier League football. So had a good eye for a player.
Yeah, so coach for England as well. Let's remember. So absolutely fantastic, and very sad news, Pete. Very sad news.
Yeah, very sad. So what else we got to talk about?
I want to briefly mention the let fans in debate that was debated in Parliament last Monday, and they have said that they're keen to let fans in as soon as possible, but there's no definite move. Several MPs have put forward the case showing concerns for their local clubs, surviving and be able to pay these bills and stuff like that. But we're also not sure about when our local football restarts, about letting fans in. So, I mean, I'd be surprised, Pete, if, our local Step 4, Step 5 clubs, I can't see them, not letting fans in because, the leagues and the clubs said that it wouldn't be viable, didn't they? So let's hope it's looking like a possible 12th of December start and, maybe they'll limit those fans again because they did limit it for our Step 4 clubs to 200, then they stretched it to 400. Maybe they'll limit that to 200 to start with, but I guess it's all play it by ear, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is. And it's very difficult, isn't it? Because, I suppose with a magic wand, you'd love a track and trace system that told you where you contracted COVID, and they might then have some figures about what the risks are of outside sporting events. Because, as it is much less likely to contract the condition in the open air than it is in an enclosed space. So, we just live in the hope that fans will be allowed back in, and especially for Christmas, we'll be back in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other different sports that we don't normally speak about, I want to say. First of all, Pete, you were saying last week about you not liking, these sports without the spectators, apart from a couple. And there was one I was watching over the weekend, the Masters. I watched the golf, and I'll tell you what, it was so nice to watch it and not hear the crowd after someone hits a tee shot on a par 5 shouting, "Get in the hole." Oh, that really annoys me. It really does. But one thing I do want to mention, local lad, he's from Stevenage, Lewis Hamilton. He won his 7th Grand Prix world title over the weekend, equaling Michael Schumacher's record. So congratulations, Lewis.
Yeah, well done, Lewis. First on 4 wheels around the go-kart track at Wright House. So that's where it all started.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure he's listening, so I'm sure he'll appreciate the mention.
Oh, I'm sure he listens to all our shows. But who knows? Sort of sports, actually. I watched some hurling over the weekend. My word, that is a tough sport, I tell you. Don't want to be thumped with one of those. So they call them hurleys, don't they? It's kind of, it's a bit like a hockey stick with a spoon stuck on the end of it. And it's, whoa, you don't want to get clouted with one of them.
That's it, and they're like rugby goals, aren't they? But with a net at the bottom, so you get points for over the crossbar. You get 2 points, I think it is, for getting in the net. And yeah, it's a rough old sport. Yeah, that is. I wouldn't fancy playing that.
Oh, absolutely. It's played on a ginormous pitch as well. I looked at the pitch and thought I'd get out of breath just walking down the sideline, let alone running about on it. Right, shall we? I suppose it's time to call it. The referee hasn't had a lot to do in lockdown. Let's face it. I mean, so he's just waiting there, or she's just sitting there, should I say, waiting to blow that whistle. And time to get the oranges out.
Right, well, welcome back from that break. Pleased to say we're now joined by Welwyn Garden City Vice Chairman Dave Coates. Dave, thanks for coming back on and joining us. It's great to have you here.
No problem, fellas. Thanks for the invite.
Dave, it's good to have someone like yourself on because, guests we've had on previously, we've had some managers, we've had players and that, but, we can get a point of view of running a club. And especially, during these times, obviously, it's lockdown too. And how it affects the club. So let's go back to the first lockdown. Obviously, all football was ended. The clubhouse was shut. You've had to shut the 3G as well. How much of an effect did that have on you as a club, considering you hire that 3G and you hire out the clubhouse?
Yeah, so obviously we kind of had an inkling, like everyone did, that lockdown was going to happen. But in reality, we probably got 48 hours notice from the kind of the Wednesday to the kind of end of play on the Friday, I think it was, if I remember. But we were planning for full lockdown anyway, because I think the indications at the time was that that was the way it was going to go. But it does kind of affect you overnight. So all your revenue streams just completely close off. We had bookings from the club right up into the end of the year, which was like social events, which is a big money kind of income for us. All of those were kind of, cancelled. So you're straight away looking at a substantial amount of money. And then for our club, Simon, that I think we've spoken before in terms of the size of our club. The football side isn't self-sufficient at the moment, and it hadn't been for the whole year and previous years. So, it's our members who come in every day, who kind of have a drink on our site, and kind of keep us going. So the kind of revenues that they kind of just completely stopped. Obviously, we've then got to look about, how we're going to keep the clubhouse running initially. And then kind of look at, well, if we're not going to get money in for 3 months, how do we keep afloat? And then after that 3-month period, how are we actually going to run a football club so that we can actually play games? And that was a massive challenge, because straight away you're looking at thousands of pounds a month that you can't take in. Your bills, even though they can be deferred, you still have to pay them. So sometimes actually deferring is actually a negative thing, because all you do is store up a debt. But if you haven't got the money, you can't pay. So we then kind of started looking straight away as a committee in terms of, well, what is on offer for us to actually claim for through the council, through the FA, through the Premier League, to kind of see what money we could bring in otherwise. You then kind of have to look at your outgoings. Is there anything that you can pay off, or is there anything that you can kind of ask for some kind of period of time, where you can actually just kind of pay back in installments, things like that. We basically had to start from scratch and talk to various companies, and some companies have been excellent. So Sky TV, if you have a club or premises or a pub, it's quite a lot of money that you have to pay, but you have to have it. A football club, you have to have it, because it's a great way of getting people in. But they actually did say, for the lockdown period, they wouldn't charge, but then BT did charge. So you're kind of clearing one kind of money outgoing, and then you can't kind of get rid of it all. And then you're looking at your gas, your kind of electrics, etc. Even though you're not using it, you still pay to have it. So there's brewery charges, and in fairness to the brewery, they were excellent with us. You've just kind of, it's almost like, as everyone has had to do, it's you really have to manage what's going out, because, people, who've had jobs and been furloughed, I think everyone's been doing the exact same thing. But you do feel quite a lot of pressure as a committee, because number one, you've got to immediately, look at how you keep the clubhouse going and keep it open, or make plans for it to reopen for your members. That you've then got to get your members back in. You've got to give the members the confidence that you've got an establishment that is COVID safe, and we've done a lot of work together in doing that. And they come back and they have supported us. They've been brilliant. We used the opportunity in the summer to actually do some work on the club, because it did need work. And kind of, if you look at the period of time we were out, it was a question of, will you ever get this time again? So we did do a little bit of refurbishment with the help of the local members, those who did have trades come in and actually done it for no charge, which was great. Then you're kind of looking at, right, now we've done that, how do we reopen? So you kind of get to that stage, and then you're like, right, we need to sit down with Nicky and talk to him about his budget for the year. So, there's a lot to think about, and there is a lot of pressure, and the pressure comes almost at a real concertina time, because you've got no football, then all of a sudden you have got football, then you've got the clubhouse reopening, and it's almost, you've got a pause of time, and then everything comes at you at once. And you've got to make sure that you keep everyone safe. So, you have all these guidelines that you try to follow. You do your risk assessments. I'm the kind of the COVID officer, so you make sure that everything's in place, both for the people who use your clubhouse, but also for the football side. And then you just you then have that discussion around, well, what realistically can we give Nicky for a club budget, for a squad budget, without putting the club in danger of spending too much money and folding. That's the realisation of it. It's trying to keep your club's head above water.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, obviously, you've had to tighten your belts. You touch on, Sky Sports BT, the Brewer. But, I imagine, when it all started, you had food, because obviously, you've got the food outlet as well. You've got food there to consider that, possibly going to waste. But, saying about tightening the belts and speaking to Nicky, obviously, your budget's been affected, but I'm guessing some of the clubs that would have previously have had a bigger budget, they'd have been hit harder. So do you think it's something that you might sort of, in a funny way, be able to take advantage of?
I think I don't know the ins and outs of every club. And you kind of look at your own club, and our budget was small anyway, Simon. And then we kind of, if you compare it to some of the other clubs in the league who've had, a previous experience at a much higher level, they've got bigger crowds. I think some of them have had backers. We've had really good sponsors over the last 3-4 years. But we went back to them. And obviously for those guys who are running businesses, they've had lockdown as well. So, you're trying to have that conversation where you're kind of having a sponsorship conversation, but they're almost in the same boat. It's a vicious circle of, well, listen, guys, we can't give you anything this season because, our kind of work has dried up as well. We've had to stop. So I think that I thought originally that there would be a massive flattening out of this, that we probably would be on a bit more of a level playing field. I'm not really sure I think it's probably too early to tell if that's actually happened as yet. As I say, each club has its own finances. Each club has its own sponsorships. I still think, our budget that we've given Nicky this year is probably, I would still say, is probably the actual lowest in the league, or at least at that lower end. And I'm speculating there. But if you look at the other clubs, that they can still bring in 300 or 400 people, at our kind of level as a club, we're still kind of trying to hit, get over that 120, 130, 140 mark, which is why we made the decision on, another kind of topic of conversation was, how much do we charge for this year? We come to the end of last season, we literally just started the £5 entry to get more people in, because we were having so many games cancelled on a Saturday that your attendance is cut by half. So if we move from a Saturday to a Tuesday, it's instantly, on average, 50 people. That's how much we lose. So we thought, well, we'll go down the £5 mark and see what that done. And this year we kind of said, well, do we go £8, £9? And we decided on £7, because £7 to come in, have a pint, it's a tenner, So we kind of looked at that and said, well, people have been furloughed, people have lost their jobs out of this. There's going to be a lot of Premier League fans around the town who can't go to football. Can we get them in the gate? And at the moment, really, we've only really had 2 or 3 home games. And we have seen some decent crowds, especially with our cup games. And we want to just make sure that our pricing structure, while we charge probably the kind of lowest in the league, we've done it for a reason. And we want to try and get more people in. And we felt that if we priced above that, we wouldn't really be that appealing. So we're trying to generally push the fact of, listen, to come down for a tenner, you can come in, have a beer and watch a good, decent standard of football.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about those attendances, because last season I've been divulging in some figures. You had an average of 103 last season. So far this season, you've had 4 home games, and your average is 170. Now, your 4 lowest games last year, you had 4 crowds over 175. And your lowest this season is 145, and your lowest this season is 145. Like you say, that's been helped by people not going to, support their team in the Premier League or in the Championship. So I guess for you as a club, it's about, once people are allowed to, go to Premier League games and Championship League games, National League, etc., etc. It's about keeping those crowds and keeping them coming down to watch you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And what we want to do is obviously we want to make, and it's been a challenge in the clubhouse as well, because we've had to, obviously when we started, we had a one-way system in, it was the kind of summer weather, so people could come in, one-way system, and then could have their beer outside. Because as you know, out the front, we've got plenty of room. There's plenty of people for social distancing. And then you look at, we then had to go to a table service where you kind of completely reduce the amount of people that you kind of get in. And we have to cater for our members as well. So a Saturday is a really big day for our members as well to come in, and especially if there's Premier League on the telly. So you've got to kind of have that fine balance where you're not turning or saying to your club members, well, you can't actually come in for a pint because we've got the football crowd in. So we've had to be a little bit kind of conscious of that, but we've been fine with that so far. Then we've had the curfew as well for the evening games, because that's had an effect. Because, in general, after the game, you get both sets of players would come in after the game in midweek, have a couple of beers. People would generally stay behind. We don't have that now. So that's another thing where, the kind of our opportunity to impress people in terms of what we kind of have in terms of the clubhouse is limited. But that's why we decided that we, if we could, to just do some kind of works inside, just to do some cosmetic stuff, just to make the club look better, more appealing, open it up a bit, make it brighter. And with the help of the members and Kim Tixera, who was kind of the lead behind it, unfortunately, Kim passed away during lockdown, unfortunately, before he could see the kind of fruits of his work, which is a real kind of gutter for everyone, really. But Kim really pushed the committee to actually do the work. He kind of was the total kind of brains behind it. He got people together. He got guys who, including his sons and his friends, to actually do the work for us. And it was the only way we could do it. It was stretched out over a number of weekends purely for social distancing reasons. And the club now, we're very proud of it. It's been a great job. It looks a lot better. And before this second lockdown, we were definitely feeling that we were getting the opportunity for more bookings. Again, we now get into the second lockdown, and a lot of what we envisaged for the rest of the year has been put on pause again. However, we are hopeful that, come early December, it will kind of open up again, and then we go again. We start again, and we start pushing on again. But it's important, that we, at the moment, that we give the kind of fans a team that people want to come back to. They want to come to watch. I think Nicky's doing that. I think Nicky's got an excellent core of players. That even with the reduction in budget, the big core of the lads come back. George come back, Jess Walkin, Jay Rolfe, the kind of Johnny Sextons of this world, Dave Keenley sides, that those were the real core players, and they come back to us. So, Nicky, he can't go out and tell people, I'm going to pay you this, pay you that, because it's not realistic. And Nicky knows that, and he gets people to play for him in other ways. And there's a massive feel-good factor about the team. There's a massive team spirit. There is feel that anyone who plays for us wants to play for us. They want to play for us. They want to play for Nikki. They want to play for the club, and they want to play for the people that watch them. And you know, that's a great thing to have, and that hasn't always been like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, keeping the crowds coming in, and you know, it comes with the team performing well in the league and in the cup. And you know, I mean, let's talk about the cups, because it was unfortunate in the FA Cup. You know, you went out to on penalties to Bishop Stortford. But Dave, I mean, you know, the FA Trophy, you beat Haywards Heath 4-1 away.
Yeah.
And then you went on to face Horsham. Difficult tie for you. Again, I mean, that went to penalties. You know, came through that. That was an away game. You know, we should have been there, you know, covering it for 90 minutes. Unfortunately, there was problems getting there. And, you know, it's the furthest the club's got, you know, in the FA Trophy. And you've got a home tie in the next round against Hertford Town, haven't you? And they are former winners. You know, they've won the trophy before, but Nicky's won it before as well, hasn't he?
He has indeed. So, you know, one of the things that we really kind of wanted to improve on was our cup performances. You know, in terms of they're brilliant for your club profile, because you know the further you get along, the more exposure you get. They're great for the players and the kind of management team. You know, I think everyone wants to be, you know, the furthest you can go, the better. Fans love it, you know, creates a bit of a buzz, and it brings revenue in. And, you know, that's the main thing as well. You know, it's ideally, you know, how fantastic would it be to get into quarterfinals of the FA Trophy or whatever it'd be marvellous for everyone concerned. But it does bring in some good revenue for you. Unfortunately, obviously, with everything that's gone on, you know, the FA have had to reduce the kind of total amount of cash that they've put into the trophy this year. However, it's still money that can be reused, you know, within the club. It can be, you know, in terms of Nick's budget, you know, it can be reused for that. It's in terms of winning cup rounds, it's really, really important. And in the past, you know, we've gone out really early. Sometimes we've been really unlucky with the draws. You know, we've had some really tough draws. I know Nicky last year was dealt some really difficult games. And in previous years, you know, we've had draws where really we should have won and we should have progressed, and we didn't. All the fans love a cup run. You know, it's the same, you know, wherever you go non-league, you know, especially, you know, FA Cup runs, but FA Trophy is realistic for us. I think, you know, there's every chance that in the first round, you know, that we could actually win that game, and I'm really confident. Yeah.
I mean, let's move on to the league. You're sitting 11th. You've got 10 points from 6 games. I mean, you've got a game or 2 in hand of most of the teams above you. But I mean, that top half of the league is pretty tight, isn't it? I mean, I know it's still early days, but if you look at that top half, there could be so much movement on any given game day, depending on the results, couldn't there?
Exactly, yeah. And we've won 3, we've drawn 1, and we lost 2. And the last game we lost, we really didn't deserve to. That was against Bedworth away. Unfortunately, we had to play Lee Close, you know, another stalwart member of the squad who come back to us this season. Now, we had to play Lee in goal, and in fairness to Lee, he's done very well. But the goals we conceded, you know, the 2 from free kicks, you know, the first one was very dubious anyway. But, you know, when you're not a goalkeeper, it's very hard to keep those types of things out. And I was very confident if we had our normal goalkeeper in. Unfortunately, he was injured and we couldn't get our under-23 keeper there. Unfortunately, he was working. And this is the difficulty as well with the league we're in. You know, a midweek trip up to Bedworth is very difficult. These guys, you know, they work for a living, they're self-employed. It's very difficult sometimes to get in our league, you know, to travel midweek. But we put up a good show. We had a goal disallowed that shouldn't have been ruled out. And I don't really think we've disgraced ourselves this season. We've done pretty well. First game of the season away at Wantage, we didn't perform very well in that 90 minutes. But other than that, we played well, we played okay. And as you say, listen, we've got 2 games in hand. You know, it's very concertinaed up there. It's only really, we played 6 games. Some teams have played 8. It's all to play for again this year. And it'll be disappointing if we don't get back in December, because what we don't want is, you know, the league to be decided on a different way rather than, you know, the traditional, you know, you play all your games out and then there's a winner at the end of it. I think if you look at the kind of Tranmere story from last year, you know, the way in which that league kind of worked out, you know, it can be seen as a little bit unfair. I don't really know what the best way to do it, really, if you don't get all your games. I suppose the points average is probably the most common sense approach. But hopefully if we get back into December, you know, it may take that there may be weeks where you have to play 3 games in a week, or, you know, we've done it before with cancellations. That's the risk at our level. You know, if we get the same winter, autumn period as we did last year with that amount of rain that we had, you know, if you remember, we were having like games consistently called off. You know, we would have to do that anyway. So, you know, if we have to start these games a little bit later and we go into the start of December and we can actually start playing these games, I think we'd be a match for anyone. And, you know, we definitely, I believe, and Nicky may tell you something different, but I think we definitely overachieved last year, getting to where we did. Second season's always a little bit different. You know, the teams know a little bit more about you, about how you set up. They know your players. And, you know, I fully expect us to be, you know, challenging. I really do. I think we've got a core of a really good side. And we've got some good new players coming in, or have come in. So I'm confident that we're going to do well, that we'll be competitive again. And, you know, with what we give Nicky in terms of a budget, and how he works, that's all you really ask for, that, you know, that he has a competitive squad, you know, that they give their all, they're genuine, and that's what they are.
Yeah, I mean, you say about new players, and you touched earlier about, you know, goalkeeper, you know, missing that game at Bedworth. I mean, Charlie Crowley, he's come in, and you know, he's been a fantastic addition to the squad. We knew him before where he played at Ware, and you know, he's come in. He looks really strong. And one other young lad, he made his debut a few weeks ago, Ryan Doherty. He made his debut in the 1-1 draw against Kempston, and then he got Man of the Match award for the game against Horsham, didn't he? So, I mean, how encouraging is that for you to see these young players come in and settle straight into the side?
Well, it's another. I think when I was on previously with you and Pete, we spoke about that we had an under-18s team. I think that we all agreed as a committee, and we agreed with Nicky that was maybe not the right way to go, that the jump was too big from that side up into the first team, which is why we agreed to bring back the under-23 side, because you could, if you've got promising young lads, they can go into that team. But what it also does, it gives you an avenue for Nicky to bring back people who, you know, who've had injuries. If they've had injuries, you know, that you can play them in there. Or, you know, if you've got players that haven't been playing so much in the first team, you know, you want to get a match fit, you can use that under-23 team. But we wanted to use it as a springboard to get younger players into the first team, providing they were good enough. And Ryan is definitely showing that. He's impressed so far. You know, this is exactly what we wanted the team for, you know, so that we could have a bit of stability in terms of bringing these guys up. And that's got to be the aim, really, isn't it? Really, of any club that are of our standard and our standing, you know, you want to have a under-23 team where you do get at least, you know, 2-3 players that you can use in the squad every season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going to a couple of other things. I mean, you had a big announcement a few weeks ago. You had, you know, Sky Sports down. You had, you know, BBC and ITV. I think, you know, the World and his wife was down there, weren't they? You had a new stadium sponsorship deal with Utilita. So it's now called the Utilita Stadium. And how big has that helped you? How much has that exposure for the club helped?
I think any exposure is good. I think on that given day, there was a big launch for Utilita. If you look at where they are in the football world, if you look at Scottish football, EFL football, they are involved at that level, but they wanted to do something at grassroots. So they contacted us and they wanted to kind of launch their power scheme, supporting grassroots football. So for us, it was a no-brainer, really. What we've kind of, if you look, it's called the Utilita Stadium now. We got some brand new kits from them, which is vital for us. That's another expense we didn't have to worry about. They helped us with some cosmetic stuff around the club, and for us to have such a big company sponsoring us, it's definitely got potential. So this is the first year. They are kind of keen to make this work for their benefit as well as ours. That they're really keen on the grassroots side of football. And we're hoping that, it becomes a really good partnership over the next 2, 3, 4 years. But yeah, it was interesting. David James, who's kind of a friend of the club, he's also a key player in the actual Utilita itself. So, he's quite high profile amongst that. And he come down, spent some time with the youth teams. We had reporters from ITV, from Sky, from BBC. We were on, our chairman, Ray, he was on Football Focus. He was interviewed for Sky. Anything that raises the profile of the club, I think that's what it's all about. That's what we've got to do. We've got to push ourselves out. And this was part of doing that. Yeah,
I heard it. I heard it on TalkSport, and I heard that interview with David James. And he did say he was going to get involved and help sponsor the club and help you as much as he can. It's all on record, so he can't get out of it, can he? Now? Has he come through with that at all?
I think he can expect a call from our treasurer very soon, I think. But anything that we can, as I said, Simon, anything that we can do to kind of push ourselves out there, this committee, are open to doing that, and this is part of it. Sometimes you can't wait for things to happen. You've got to go out and kind of make it happen. So, we pushed the club forward. We said, yeah, you can launch here and we'll do anything that we need to do to make it work. And it went really well.
Yeah, one final thing I want to go on to before bringing Pete in. We mentioned last week about leagues canvassing clubs about a restart date. I know the Southern League have been asking clubs. They've been saying, the 5th, the 12th or the 19th, and they are recommending the 12th. Have you had any further communication from them at all?
No, we did kind of say, that the 5th was unrealistic.
Yeah.
If you come out of lockdown on the 2nd, you can't expect a team to be ready on the 5th. And to be honest with you, we said the 12th, and even then it's pushing it. But we know that you can't hold it off. So we felt that the 12th was a good kind of compromise date. So I think it's just a question of waiting now. But I think a lot of the leagues are looking at the 12th.
Yeah. Pete, do you want to come in and ask Dave anything at all?
Yeah, I just want to go back to probably what we were talking about at the beginning. It just interests me that you've had to be really innovative as a committee in doing what you're doing, juggling all those balls in the air. I mean, in terms of support from organisations like the FA or whatever, I mean, how much support, if any, do you get?
So in fairness, we've kind of looked at every avenue to get money in. So, we received a couple of grand to help us with our pitch. Our groundsman moved on last season, Paul. So we basically, initially straight after the league was cancelled, our pitch was in the right state because the last game, if you remember, we basically looked like it was going to be called off, almost waterlogged. We went out, we fought it, got the game on, but it was a quagmire and the pitch was in a terrible state. So myself, Lee, the treasurer, and Malcolm he's our under-23 secretary, member of our football committee. We kind of, for 10 weeks, we tended to the pitch the best that we could. Paul, our ex-groundsman, gave us all the advice he could and come down to almost in a consultancy role just to kind of help us out. And then Richard James, who's come along as our under-23 manager. Luckily enough, Richard has got experience of managing a pitch. He's kind of come in and really kind of helped us with it. It's now in a really good condition, we think. But we applied for a grant to help us with that expense because, you can throw thousands of pounds at a pitch, but we haven't got that. But we did gain some money to do that. Then we tapped into a Premier League and FA fund to help your club become COVID safe, which we applied for and we got. And what you can do is you can use it on the cosmetic side of your club, such as sanitizer, all the stuff you need as part of your risk assessment to keep your establishment COVID safe. Or you can use it also for things like coach travel, because obviously they're encouraging you to try and keep your first team squad together rather than all go in different cars, etc. So we got that grant, and that actually pays for all our coaches for the year. So, that was a massive kind of plus for us. And when you consider that, if we were in the same league as Ware and Hertford, we would, if you kind of look at where we go to now, round trips, we would be travelling 600 miles less than what we do now. So, 10 coaches up to Birmingham, etc., travel up 90 miles, nearly 200 miles each way for Coleshill, just as an example. That's a lot of money that you have to pay out in coaches. But by giving us that grant, and we were quite honest when we put our application in, we kind of said, listen, we would use it for that, to keep that kind of bubble of the management and the players together. To actually get that grant was a massive, massive help. So, that there is support. People kind of question, is it enough? How much is enough? I think clubs can always ask for more money, but we appreciate the support that we've had, the financial support that we've had. We'll continue doing what we're doing in terms of still trying to get sponsors through the door in other ways, match ball sponsors, match sponsors, advertising around the ground and around our 3G pitches. That will go on all year round because we need money all year round. So we won't let that stop, and we'll keep doing what we're doing in terms of that. But there has been money out there. There is more that we are looking into, Pete, in terms of applying for other funds and grants, and we keep doing that.
Yeah, I just applaud your efforts, I think, in everything, you and the committee are doing. And thanks, it was a really fascinating insight into, what it takes just to put a non-league football team out there on the pitch, which I think is something that, fans don't always get the opportunity to have that little bit of inside track on what happens. So, good luck to you, Dave, the rest of the committee, and fingers crossed we can see you down at the Utilita sometime in December.
Of course, let's hope so. Yes, you're always welcome, And it'd be nice to get going again in early December. I think football in general is a massive fillip for people, when, it's difficult for everyone, and working from home for people is difficult, and the social side of it, the mental health side of it, for people who are playing it, but also people who are watching it. It creates, it's a great diversion and gives people a different focus. So we'll be doing all we can to get us actually playing again in December. So let's hope it does come that by the 2nd of December, we're out of this lockdown. Things are starting to improve in terms of the COVID rates, etc., and that we can kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel of this thing.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. We'll look forward to it. You're one frustrated football commentator here at the moment. Nothing to commentate on, so I'll be looking forward to the return. Dave, thanks very much for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you, gents. Thank you very much.
Right, thanks, Dave, for that chat. Absolutely fascinating, really insightful chat with him there, getting the insights of a club and that. But Pete, it's that time again. Time for donuts.
This is East Herts Radio, 90 minutes donut of the week.
Right, Pete, last week's winner was Boreham Wood, and you had a vested interest in this. But I did notice something yesterday, that they have continued their stance on banning reporters because they didn't let anyone in for the Arsenal women and Chelsea women games. So, they're not taking any prisoners, Pete.
Don't learn, do they? They don't learn.
No, they don't.
There we go.
I'm going to kick off. So I've got a couple of nominations that I'm going to mention here. My first one goes to Tory MP Jake Berry, who there was a chat when calling for government help to save local football clubs. He said, for many who live in London and the south of England, things like the Opera House and the ballet will be the heart of their culture. But in the north, it is our local football club. I mean, Pete, when was the last time you went to the ballet or the Opera House?
Can I say never?
Yeah, exactly. Hertford Opera House and the Hertford Ballet is how popular is that? Do you know?
Oh dear! Yeah, well, we've seen some very balletic moves. Is that a word? Balletic, I think it is. Moves in the Isbian and Southern Leagues and the Essex Senior League, but no, I don't think so. No, just give me a non-league football game instead of Swan Lake any day of the week. I think.
That's it. I'm going to mention my next nomination, and I need to be careful with this one. So this is from Braintree Town Twitter. They had a league game against St Albans last Tuesday, and in the first tweet when they were reporting on the match, they meant to say Wiltshire has a deflected shot at goal and it's saved by Edwards. Unfortunately, Pete, they misspelt shot. And I was thinking about what was in the actual tweet, and if that had happened, and I don't know what would have been worse, if the keeper had saved it or he'd let it slip between his fingers.
We're not after the watershed, So we're not allowed to mention that. I've got form. I have. I've been censured by YouTube for a football commentary, haven't I? But
that's why I'm being so careful.
Absolutely right. Okay, I've got a couple. First one is we've got another football manager related one because these people that play football manager, I tell you, strange old breed. Tony Jameson proves there's a fine line between an enthusiast and an addict because he is a football manager fanatic. And amongst the things that he's done to keep his eye on his favourite team, who are Blythe Spartans, by the way, is that he once took his laptop to a wedding so he could finish off transfer deadline day. So while everybody was, while the vicar was saying, has anybody got any reason why these two should not be married or whatever, he almost put his hand up and said, well, it's transfer deadline day. Can I go outside and find out what I've signed? But he admits that the game has dominated his life. And his high point was that he celebrated lifting the Champions League with Blythe Spartans by spending the afternoon on a public open top bus tour singing "We Are the Champions." So
I mean, Pete, I play Football Manager, and I have heard of people getting to a cup final and sitting there playing it in their suit, but I've never heard of anyone organising an open bus tour. Fantastic.
He's set the level now. If you win at Football Manager, that's what you got to do. And second nomination is for the fact we had a Southend one last week, which kicked off the Boreham Wood thing. Well, we've got another Southend one this week, but unfortunately, this one's for Southend fans after their team's 6-1 defeat at Colchester last week. Supporters were kept updated with an in-game commentary on the loss, and so in protests, once it had finished, they went to the ground and padlocked the gates to show just how angry they were with the fact that the team have now gone 16 games without a victory. Team come back on the bus and can't get in at Roots Hall because the fans have padlocked the gates. Now, let's put this into a little bit of context because people might think it's a bit funny to start with. okay, but Chris Callaghan, who's an absolute staunch Southend supporter, I'll tell you, I'll read the whole of this because this is a mega rant against his own team's fans. Because he put this out, he said, "I'm absolutely gutted, embarrassed and ashamed to be a supporter of over 50 years standing of my beloved Southend United. Regrettably, nothing to do with last night's awful performance and the result. No, my feelings are the result of the performance and actions directed at our players on their return to our home. For the young, inexperienced players that have been cruelly exposed to the situation we now find ourselves in through prolonged off-field mismanagement, what on earth has this done to their already low confidence? Remember, a number of these lads have grown up with the club and consider it their club too. All this pie-in-the-sky talk about RM should sell up, who's their owner. Let's sack yet another manager. Let's bring in past legends to save us. For God's sake, let's get real. The situation is like COVID. We are not in bloody control of it at the present time. All we as fans can do is live up to our name, Southend United. And if anyone seriously believes the actions at Roots Hall last night are constructive ones, then good luck to them. But for me, it sunk lower than any performance on the pitch." So there you go. That's Chris, who would give me the thumbs up for awarding Southend fans a donut.
And I don't think you can agree with anything he said there at all, can you, Pete?
No, absolutely. He's absolutely right. I mean, we've got a young football team. We've talked about them at the top of the show. Hertford Town last year lost 9-1 at home to Westfield. Okay. What did the fans do? They came back next week and cheered louder.
Absolutely. And that's what you need to do. That's what the players need. You know, you've got to encourage your players, not treat them like that and knock them out of the ground. Disgraceful.
Absolutely. So the vote is yours, as always. The people's vote takes to Twitter later on this evening. Is it Tony Jameson for singing "We Are the Champions" on top of a bus because he took Blythe Spartans to the Champions League? Southend fans for locking their team out after the defeat at Colchester. A Tory MP who thinks we all go down the Opera House and the ballet on a Saturday afternoon. I just can't believe that guy. Or the Twitter at Braintree Town that mispronounced, misspoke. I think that's the word, isn't it? Donald Trump used to use. They misspoke on the word "shot."
Yes, definitely. Well, Pete, I think that just about brings us to the end of another show. And let's do it all again next week.
Yeah, we got through it. This is lockdown number 2, lockdown number 3 next week, where we'll be featuring Ware in our little lockdown look. And hopefully we'll have Ware manager Paul Wolsey with us to have a chat as well. But we'll let you know all about that on Twitter in the week. So have a good week, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.